Hello, we will deal with honeybee behaviors. The combined behaviors of individuals within insect societies determine the survival and development of the colony. Individual behaviors include nest building, foraging, storing and ripening food, nursing the brood, temperature regulation, hygiene, and defense. Honeybee behaviors that we are going to study are swarming, nuptial flight, absconding, and supersedure. Swarming is the process by which a new honeybee colony is formed when the original colony replaces the old queen. What is swarm? Swarm is a group of honeybees who have left their original or old colony to start a new colony, normally with the old queen. Swarming is the natural method honeybee colonies use for multiplying their colonies. So it is a part of their natural reproductive life cycle in the colony. It is unique and interesting behavior in honeybees because it is flexible and distributed decision-making process. This process comprises of a complex array of collective behaviors that have evolved to increase the probability of reproductive success, the splitting of one colony into several new viable ones. What triggers bee swarming? Swarming is the process by which honeybee colonies reproduce to form new colonies. Signs that the colony is about to swarm are as follows. When a honeybee colony outgrows its home, becomes too congested or too populated for the queen's pheromones to control the entire workforce, then the workers signal that it is time to swarm. So when a honeybee colony outgrows its homes means when an abundance of food stored in the hive with little space for more, or a lack of comb space for brood rearing, or a high worker and drone population. No work for all worker bees or idle worker bees are present in the bee colony. What is the time for swarming? Colonies are stimulated to swarm during late spring, that is between April and May. This is the time of the year when the bees reproduce and discover new places to build their hives. Warmer weather, together with an abundance of nectar and pollen, provide ideal conditions for the colony to increase rapidly. Swarming usually occurs from mid-morning to mid-afternoon. It does not occur during evening. Important vibroacoustic information or arrays of signals is conveyed within the colony throughout some of the swarming season. Acoustic signals have been targeted in some studies for honeybee swarm prediction. When the flight of a swarm is imminent, a monotonous and quite peculiar sound made by all the bees is heard for several days. In this picture, you can see the swarm cells which are formed on the outer edges of the comb. What is the process of swarming? When a group of bees decide to leave their old hive, a set of scout bees go out and forage for information on viable sites for a new hive. Several hundred scout bees fly off to explore the surroundings for a suitable new home. On finding a suitable nest site, scout bees perform recruitment dances in order to try to recruit other bees to their discovered site. Other scout bees decode the dances, visit the sites themselves, and dance in the turn. There ensures or results a process of competition among the scout bees dancing for the different sites, at the end of which one site comes to dominate in visitation and dancing. Once this agreement is reached, a process that can take few hours up to several days, the swarm takes flight and moves to the chosen site, which can be several kilometers away. Honeybee swarms consist of one queen and several thousand workers. Generally, old queen accompanies such swarm. Left behind in the old hive are young workers and several new queens in the cell. Only one new queen survives by stinging to death to other new queens. Most swarms contain only one queen and can therefore form just one functioning colony at new resting place. The second behavior is nuptial flight. So the swarming by the virgin queen for mating is called nuptial flight. The flight of sexual mature social insects as bees in which mating takes place and which is usually a prelude or preface or introduction to the forming of a new colony. Nuptial flight is an important phase in the reproduction of most ant, termite, and some bee species. Mating occurs during nuptial flight a week after the emergence of new queen. The newly emerged queen takes her first aerial flight. She is followed by a swarm of drones without workers. So there are no workers in this swarm. The queen flies very high and the drones gradually drop out of the race. The last drone left in the race mates with the queen in mid-air. During mating, the queen receives spermatophore from the drone. Spermatophore is stored in the spermatheca of the queen bee to fertilize her eggs as long as she lives. The pair falls to the ground, the drone dies after mating, and the queen returns to the hive. Queen can mate twice in her life. Queen lays eggs in the cell on the hive and continue to do so until she grows old. Queen lays up to 1,500 eggs per day. So that is fecundity or egg laying capacity of the queen. The third behavior is absconding. The migration of entire bee colony is called absconding. A colony of honeybee leaves its home in search of another. All bees, including the queen, completely moved out of their hive. What is the reason for absconding? Lack of enough food and water. The bees left due to a nectar death or shortage and impending, that is, future starvation. Comb may have been damaged by robbing bees. Overcrowding, lack of forage, ant invasion, or heavy infestations of the small hive beetles. Uncomfortable hive. Bees cannot tolerate a bad smell and will leave immediately if they detect it. Strong winds. Strong winds swing hanged hives, causing disturbance. Strong winds also bring cold air inside the house. Too high or low temperatures. Too high temperatures cause overheating in the interior. Too low temperatures, freezing and snow kills bees, so they will have to leave the hive or abscond to avoid the threat. Poor ventilation. Bees need fresh air and good ventilation. Poor ventilation causes increase in temperature and odor accumulation. Lack of ventilation can make the house too hot even in winter. High humidity and poor drainage. Bees will abscond if there is water stagnating inside due to poor hive drainage. Water can destroy combs and kill both the young and adult bees, and if it turns into ice, it can damage the structure of the hive. Agrochemicals, pesticides, fungicides, fertilizers, and other crop and animal chemicals used in the vicinity of the hive can kill a big portion of the colony and drive away the remaining ones. Obstruction in the flight path. Bees need clear paths when flying. They do not like obstruction when getting water or nectar and pollen. If there are obstructions in their flight paths, they can move to another place that offers clear and smooth flight ways. Parasite and disease attack. Bee parasites feed on the honey and can also harm the insects directly. The parasites and predators include mites, so tracheal and varroa, ants, birds, butterflies, and wasps. Diseases can also cause the absconding phenomenon. Some common bee diseases include American foul brood disease, European foul brood disease, chalk brood disease, stone brood disease, and dysentery. Large animal raids. Some animals destroy the structure and eat the honey, while others eat the insects. For example, bears, raccoons, skunks, and mice. So raccoons and skunks are mammals. They destroy the beehive. Overpopulation. When the house becomes too populated and there are other factors interfering with the comfort, all the bees can leave it. Lack of space in the combs. If there is not enough space in the comb to store honey or for the queen to lay eggs, the honeybees feed on all the honey and leave. It can be absorbed by another bigger colony or die away. Problems with the queen. When the queen bee becomes too old, it stops laying eggs, resulting in a lack of brood to replace the dead bees or the ones that have swarmed. The colony becomes small and abscond. When the queen dies, loss of the queen means no one to manage the hive in the future. Then the colony abscond. Newly installed swarms have a greater tendency to abscond than well-established colonies. They can just leave if they dislike their new home. Thus, absconding is a kind of defense to avoid unfavorable conditions of the hive. The process of absconding. It's completely natural process. Foraging stops and scout begins searching for new location. They perform waggle dance for several weeks prior to absconding. The dance occurred during period of little flight activity, and the dance was not associated with forage sources. They interpreted this as a generalized signal to fly for a long distance in a particular direction rather than to a specific location. Waggle dances indicate that the things are better a long way in a particular direction and not in a specific location. This process can take several days until a sufficient number of the scouts are convinced of the benefits of a particular site. Once the decision is made, the colony leaves the hive and flies to the new nest site. Prior to absconding, the colony reduces brood rearing drastically. The queen will stop laying eggs and slims down in preparation of flying. Honey stores are used up. These preparations probably take more than a fortnight. However, this flight tends to happen in the middle of the day, not late in the afternoon. They usually leave behind almost nothing. Very limited amounts of capped brood or larvae or eggs remains. So in the picture, you can see the empty colony. Thus, stressful environmental conditions are avoided by absconding by the bees. The next behavior of the bees is supersedure. It is process of the replacement of an old or inferior queen bee by a young or superior queen. Supersedure is the term used by beekeepers to describe the replacement of an old queen by a new one. This has been done in order to ensure the long-term survival of the colony. Because queen bee is the most important caste in the bee colony, worker bees have short lifespan of 30 to 60 days. Also, many workers die during foraging. The queen bee has to lay enough eggs to repopulate the bees that die off. To ensure this, the healthy laying queen is required. When queen becomes ill or approaches old age and her egg-laying capacity is reduced, then for survival of the colony, bees turn to strategy called supersedure. It is natural behavior of the honeybees. When queen gets old, unhealthy, with losing egg-laying capacity, then her pheromone changes are not as strong as before. The workers detect this change and start the process of supersedure during summer because queen bees stop egg laying during winter and the unhealthy queen won't survive the cold weather. The workers build 1 to 3 supersedure cells in the middle of the comb to house eggs for a new queen. So in the picture, you can see the supersedure cells which are built in the center of the comb. While in the swarming, the cells are constructed at the corner of the or edges of the comb. The first healthy queen to emerge will seek out and destroy the other supersedure cells with her sting. If other queens emerge, then they will fight and only one queen will survive in the colony. The virgin queen will take nuptial flight for mating with drones in nearby area. After multiple mating, the new queen take over the hive from the old queen. The old queen with reducing egg-laying capacity is replaced by a new young and vigorous queen. Both may continue to live together until the old one dies or the old one may be dragged out. The old queen's pheromone level reduces so much that she will not be recognized by the workers or she becomes unseen and the workers stop feeding her and she dies. So we can summarize the honeybee behaviors. The 4 types of behaviors we studied: swarming, nuptial flight, absconding, and supersedure. Swarming is for multiplying their colonies, nuptial flight for mating, absconding to avoid unfavorable conditions on hive, supersedure for replacement of old queen by new. Swarming involves old queen with several workers. Nuptial flight involves queen and drones without workers. Absconding involves all members of the colony, queen, worker, and drone. While supersedure is the replacement of the old unhealthy queen by a new vigorous queen. Thank you.